Hello, I'm doing something a bit weird today. Bit different. I'm in my kitchen, so I don't know if I'm going to sound a bit more echoey. I don't spend much time in my kitchen. It has the ugliest lino on the floor, I think, ever. But it does have a great view because I've got lots of trees and shrubs outside. And in really rotten weather, you can actually sit in the kitchen and draw things that are outside. So it's perfect for winter. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do pen drawing. And I have this drawing out to show you a technique that I want to use. Probably for a lot of the picture, I'll be using this technique. It's a cross-hatching technique. And I forgot to include it in the description, but I did do a short video on this technique yesterday that shows you how to do the technique. So you can have a look at that afterwards. If you're not clear from this live stream still how to do it, it's kind of a quickie introduction. But this here is what this cross hatching looks like. And it's done with lines, right? So you can build up a whole picture with this. And it's nice because when you're working with ink, you can't shade in the same way as you can with pencils. So you'll see as I go along. I have in my picture, I'll just put this out. In my picture, I have a main tree that's going to go in. Then I have another tree in the foreground. I also have shrubbery and sort of bushes along. They're all blackberry bushes along here, and they're all very tangled and everything. So there's a lot of challenges in this drawing, and there's a lot of kind of intersecting shapes, but there's a lot of interest in the scene as well. So I can sit here fairly cozy in my kitchen. I wouldn't say super comfy because I'm kind of shoved into a corner here to try and record this, but bearably comfy enough. Definitely better than being outside in this weather because it's very windy. Might rain at any moment. It's lashed rain about 3 times already today, and just very stormy conditions. And it's totally calm out there at the moment with sunshine, but that could all change in 5 minutes. So the light could change as well. But the direction that the light is coming from, some of the things are a bit silhouette-y looking. And one of the main things in the main tree is fairly silhouette-y. There's just a little bit of light touching the edge of it. So I don't think that's going to change hugely. And the other thing about winter is that we don't have to deal with lots of foliage on the tree. So we can concentrate on the branch shapes. And this is going to be very interesting because later in the year, we'll start getting foliage, won't we? So you won't be able to kind of explore the idea of branch shapes. Now, I could come along and I could do my preparatory sketch in pencil, but I'm not going to. This is a sketchpad page, so I'm going to come along with this pencil, with this pen, and do the whole thing with pen. So this pen is, just in case you're wondering how thick the line is that it makes, pens will usually say, drawing pens will anyway, it's a 0.35, which is quite a fine pen and nice to draw with. And I think it's possibly an ink gel pen as opposed to a roller ball point on it. If it's a roller ball, the roller ball is so small that you can't see it. But you can do these techniques with any kind of pen, just a plain old disposable biro you can use. So we're just going to start in anywhere, okay? So You could do a series of strokes that are kind of, putting in the main thing like this in quite a bold way. We've actually got two main bows, okay? So don't worry if your lines are not in the right place first go, okay? We're going to go with this kind of loose feeling to do kind of a very free drawing that's going to get tighter as we go along, okay? So we're just worrying about the main position of the main bows first in relation to each other. And I'm not even sure if these two bows are on the same tree or two trees very close together. There's a lot to be said for going out up to the tree and having a look. But I haven't done that. I'm just going to sit here in my kitchen, put on a bit of music. And the music today is copyright free, so hopefully we'll get away with it. And it's from museorg.com, but it's via YouTube. And I can link it. I can play this actually if you want. Let's kick off with Mozart. Don't know how well you'll hear it. I have it down low because I don't really want to get a copyright strike. But if you're drawing, put on your favorite music. Now the trees starting to move around, and this is the nice thing about drawing from a real thing rather than a photo. You have the experience of the thing not just being an object that doesn't move, but a real thing. Now, I did say this was a lot of silhouette going on, didn't I? So we're starting to do our cross hatching technique. And the cross hatching technique is just a series of lines beside each other, and they can go in different directions to make the thing darker. Okay, but I'm just doing one line at the moment, one direction. And I'm coming up and following this side branch. Now, when you're drawing with pen or pencil, sometimes you see people doing little series of lines like this very carefully, particularly if you're doing a bow or something that has to sort of all join up and be the same width and everything. That's okay. But you might find that if you do a bigger line, a longer line, you get a nicer effect. So it's more your whole wrist moving if you're going longer, or if you're going longer again, still down big length, it's the whole arm, isn't it? And that actually comes from the shoulder, that movement. So, you can think about, well, how's my body moving? But it does make a difference to how confident the drawing looks. And some of the side bows have curvy bits in them. And I'm going to sacrifice some accuracy here, okay? In favor of that confident line. So when you think about it, the tree doesn't have to be really perfect to be convincing. It just has to have the main structure okay. Another thing about the structure of a tree is you can look at the outline of the tree, okay? So if I take this example thing just to show you, the outline of this tree is a broad spread that's kind of broadest 3/4 of the way down my vision. There's a lower limb down here that I'm measuring by. And as you can see, the drawing that I'm doing fairly loosely is turning out as nicely as the bigger drawing. So some of the trick is trying to remain loose, and have birds entertaining me because I have feeders out there for the birds, and I just cleaned them and filled them yesterday, and I have lots of little sparrows all having big fights over the bit of grain remaining in it. So that's good fun as well there in the tree in the foreground. So this tree is actually middle distance, but because of its placement and everything in the natural picture frame that I have, which is my window, um, it's looking like the main subject. And already it's gone more silhouette-y and darker because the weather has gone dark again. It's going to lash rain again. But we're nice and cozy inside. So I'm building up these side branches and I'm going to look at some of the branches that are very curvy because not every branch is coming out in this straight way. And the curvy ones are adding to the niceness of the tree. They're one of the things I like about the tree. And this is even curvier. I didn't check I was live today. I'm getting very daring, haven't I? So we're up near the top of the tree. And I just have a drawing board balanced on my legs, if you're wondering how I'm doing this. There's the rain. See, I'm glad I didn't go out. But I'm looking forward to going out. So we've got later when spring hits, we've got little some things happening up the top which aren't exactly leaves. They're kind of something that was left over in the winter. And they're like sort of little catkiny sort of things nearly, but they could be dried up leaves. Oh, it's absolutely belted down with rain. So cozy in here though. Don't know, can you hear it? Let's hope my internet doesn't go. Sometimes very heavy storms, the internet will go. I think it's going to be just rain though, not a big storm again. We've had kind of continuous storms for weeks. So I have some of the suggestion of some of the little shapes up the top, but I don't want to get too fussy with them at the moment. I want to get more of this tree structure in. I'm actually going a different direction with my little lines here because you don't have to go all the same direction if you don't want to. And you have to leave the thing a little bit loose. And you can see they're getting a bit thinner as they go up. But there's something else they do as they go up as well. I'm just gonna indicate a few more side branches here before I show you what I mean. What happens with the side branches is they go off into smaller groupings like this. Then they go off into smaller groupings as well. Then you have your little catkini shapes, whatever they are on them. Could be buds, I suppose. I don't think so because I've been watching that tree all winter. I need to, next time it's dry, go out for a walk, take a look at it up close. I actually have my binoculars out today. And I was going to say, oh yeah, I can look at my binoculars through my binoculars while I'm drawing if I want to see details. But I just realized I have the binoculars propping up the stand for this. I meant to get a book instead. And I just put my binoculars on it saying I'll get the book in a minute to replace it, but forgot. So the binoculars are now trapped there. Now these catkin things are all going the same direction at the moment. So they're a little bit too kind of perfect. So I want some bits of them intersecting and everything. And what I'm going to do is just draw a few bits a bit faster to sort of scruffy it up a bit. And that introduces a little bit more life into the thing as well. You know? There. So we have, see, this is not going to be a fast drawing. I'll be only here for an hour, but There's a lot of work in this particular piece, but this is why you want to get yourself in a nice, comfy spot. And actually, if I sat on this seat, this is a tall gas lift bar stool type thing. And if I sat in this seat too long, my back would know all about it. But I'll definitely get an arm at myself here without pain. Okay, so it's thinning out up at the top up here, which is good because we're going out of picture here. And the reason I left so much space down here is because we're coming down to that bush in the garden to draw that. So I don't know, what kind of a view you have out your window? Let's hope you're lucky enough to have windows for a start. Some places don't, or they face onto a brick wall or something, you know. Um, but whether you can see any trees or shrubbery or anything, or whether you're seeing buildings or anything, look for opportunities to draw um in rotten weather without going outside, you know. I used to do things like go to coffee shops and draw people in coffee shops. That's great fun to do. And you feel slightly self-conscious at first, but if when somebody realizes they're being drawn, they're one of the things being drawn, one of the people being drawn really in a coffee shop, and they look at you, if you look away, they realize, oh, well, you're not really being creepy or anything. You're just drawing a picture. Sometimes you have to put up coming up and saying, like, are you drawn? You know, which they have a right to do because you were drawing them, you know. With intrusion. But like they're into it, they're cool with it usually, you know. People don't mind at all. You know, you might have to be a bit brave about it the first time you do it, but then you get used to it when you realize people are okay with it. But you know, if they ask to see the picture, you always have to show it to them. That's the only thing. Sometimes you're not that keen on the drawing. But I have gotten some lovely drawings out of coffee shops, I have to say, and nice cups of coffee. It became a habit, like the way bringing a book out with you becomes a habit. You know, I like reading as well when I. So now we're working our way down. I'm going to get the main shape of the trees. Then I'm going to come down and work a bit in the bush because I'm aware that I only have an hour on the live stream. And I want to have a little bit of each section of the picture finished so that even then, if I'm not finished the picture and I do my usual trick and post it on the community tab finished later on in the day, you know, there'd be enough of the different elements in it for you to see how I started. And I also want to show you how to do this cross-hatching thing, this technique here, if you've never used it before. There's there. And I think down at the shrubbery bush down at the bottom would be a good place to do it. So let's see. I want to work my way down and figure out by the negative spaces between branches how far down this tree is going to go. You have some branches overlapping, which is nice. And you can see when I'm doing a really thin branch that although I went up with one stroke, I came down with another stroke. Sometimes the down strokes are easier to do than the up strokes to get it to follow that thin line, because it's quite hard to do particularly thin lines close together, you see, and get them exactly the same all the way down. So you're working on those kind of very fine motor coordination skills when you're working, particularly with ink. And it makes you have to be a little bit more dare as well and commit to something because it's ink, you know, it's going to stay put, isn't it? makes you have to make very definite decisions. So you can see that there. Now let's see if it focuses. Yeah. You can see the way the shading is coming along. And so far we're only going in one direction. But if we wanted this side of the tree darker, because the light, there is some light now, it's not at the moment, it's not coming that much from that direction, but the sun has moved over this way a bit. So it is technically speaking lighter on one side of the tree than another. You can see how if we have those lines beside each other going in a few different directions, you can build up one side of the tree darker than another. There is another way to do that, another sort of hatching. This is just called plain old hatching, and it actually follows the roundness of the tree. And that's, you see that style a lot in engravings and things. So, when you're looking at older pen drawings and engravings and things, look out for that kind of effect, because it can give volume on a thing. You'll have your own favorite effects. But what you're doing when you're drawing is you're sort of building up your alphabet, your personal alphabet of effects that you use. Now you can see how I'm doing two directions on that to make it a bit darker. But I didn't commit to it straight off, so I just wanted to get the main thing down first. Okay. So, and I'm also noticing the structure of the thing, the way the two sides of the tree go up. They're not coming out at exactly the same place. They're kind of I forget what you call it, alternate kind of branching. There's a name for that. There's two kinds of ways of branching. Some plants they'll come out. Some plants will come out at exactly the same place side, and other ones they'll come out staggered, say like that. And it's a nice idea having that little spare bit of paper to work on as well, because sometimes you just want to loosen up and you can like come along and do things like, just to get yourself loosened out again so you don't stay too tight. Let's see where else. This is a kind of a tight drawing so far, though. I'm kind of enjoying keeping it tight. And we'll move on to starting that bush thing soon, because we're at I've been on for 23 minutes already, you see. I have too much fun on these things. The time whizzes by. And I have so many of these little catkini shapes here, but I don't want to draw them in straight away. I'm sort of drawing the structure of the branches first. And as I say, because it's winter, it's great that I can see it. Like if it was summer, I'd see a lot of foliage, and then I'd see some bits of branches here and here, and I'd go, well, I don't know how those things relate to each other. So, I mean, I could even take this drawing out later in the year and, understand the structure of that particular tree so much better. This is actually a really coppery colored tree. I don't know what kind of a tree it is. Whether it's a peach or I don't know what. To be honest with you, I'm not very good at tree identification. I'm not that happy with this way of doing the foliage, and I'm trying to sort of invent something a little bit less separate, because I have a lot of clumping together of things here. But I also have, directionally, I have stuff coming from the other tree. the other bough of the tree across that I want to pay attention to as well. And that has those captainy things on it as well, or whatever they are. I don't think they're. I definitely have to go out and have a proper look at them because it's driving me mad. Okay, so the ones that are on front of them from the other tree, which has a branch that's going in front, um, you wouldn't know they're very obviously on front. They're not a different color or tone or anything. They're just it's only the lines that are telling you which tree it's coming out of. That's your only clue, you see. But it does contribute to the density of them in that bit. And this one has a lot of curves in it. A lot of curviness going on with this one. With a branch going across at an odd angle. See, the trees are quite individual as well. They might, particular sort of trees might have a particular sort of layout, but a tree is like a person, really, isn't it? It's got its individual things going as well. I like that more open way of doing those better than the ones at the top. Although what I'm looking at, some of them in life are more definite like that, but I like this less hard edge looking thing. So I'm trying to keep them when I'm doing them over here. I'm trying to keep them a bit less hard edge. And I think that way of doing them as a little few lines together is actually working better. So you see, this is part of the creating your alphabet for particular objects. You're always creating something new, you see. And your way of doing something is different to everybody else's, isn't it? This is what makes your art unique. You see, I think that's so much better looking now and feels like the thing more than the way I was doing it over there. So already I have a little alphabet for doing that part of the tree there that I developed myself. You know what I mean? That the other way wasn't working. I said, okay, I'll try something else. Staying open to it. And this is why it's looking carefully, and then not saying to yourself, well, that'll do, saying, well, that doesn't really describe it. How would I get at that? The way the thing looks and the way it feels as well. So now there's a big sweep over here, and I'll be a bit bold about that. And it's kind of a two-part branch that kind of dips. And it's nice that it's silhouette-y because some of the corrections I've made to lines there get covered, you see, by how dark it is. Oh, and now it's changed completely again because now the sun has come out. And I have a branch that I didn't see before now coming out in the sunshine. And it's coming right, it's so interesting because it's coming right across. I'd be so annoyed if any of this music is blocked by YouTube because it is all copyright free. Sometimes, even if the thing is copyright free, you get an orchestra has the rights to the performance of it. But the site that this is originally from, the performers have granted you the right to replay it. But sometimes somebody will still come along and say, no, that's us performing it, when it isn't them performing it at all. And I think that sometimes it's just a YouTube bot picking it up, and they're not very good at distinguishing one thing from another if it's not an actual claim put in by somebody. So this is why often you can't hear my music, because I have it down so low. Because I just don't want to have to deal with the, a dispute and copyrights and everything. You don't even listen to small channels, particularly for these things. So I don't know. But I put in a playlist underneath. The channel that it's on YouTube is CBGP Music. But they got the music. They tell you where they got the music from, and I know that site is all copyright free stuff. No one that played wasn't covered. Now we're down near the shrubbery, which is pretty exciting, and we're getting down to where there's ivy on the tree as well, because this tree has become more interesting than it used to be. It was just kind of a okayish tree before. It wasn't like mad about it, like I get about oak trees. I get quite passionate about oak trees because they're such amazing shapes. And then just as I'm getting really passionate about them, somebody comes along and cuts them down. But this tree is getting more life on it now. And part of me wonders, is the tree dying? Because there's certain kinds of lichens now growing on this tree that is usually is a sign that the wood is dying on the tree. And it's becoming really covered in ivy in the lower part of it as well, but it's not completely strangled by the ivy. But it is beautiful to draw. It's got ivy. So part of the thing that's nice about this scene is some of the tangly, there's loads of tangly intersections all the way up here. I'm just putting down the main structure first before I even do those. Will I even get this done today? I don't know. Some drawings just take a lot longer than others. And this is going to be a more detailed drawing because I'm enjoying it so much. So I don't know, will it go up today or not? But I tell you what, if it goes up today on that community tab finished, I will post a comment here saying, look, it's finished, and I put it on the community tab. But it might be tomorrow before it's finished. Last week's live stream, I started 3 drawings, and I was 3 days doing the 3 drawings. So it wasn't until day 3 that I had all 3 of them together. So I do love that community tab. It's so handy for posting work. I think it's nice to be able to see how somebody's working on something, how the thing turned out. So here's the ivy coming down, and I'm just doing a kind of a tangly shape with sort of doing the tangles, right? And then some shading. And you'll see more of this kind of technique as I move down to the bush. Now there's that joining the tree there. And then we've got another branch going to head off here and intersect with the other tree. And in fact, we've got lovely branches that go these kind of very curvy shapes heading off, which is also interesting. So we've had, a nice gentle curve type branch, and we've got this ziggy-zaggy type branch, and then we've just got nice, gentle upward curve branches. So it's the fact you're going to feel different sorts of shapes going on that makes the thing exciting. And in fact, that's what I found so exciting about doing this subject, which was just a dry plant that I pulled up. It was something floral, if I remember correctly. It was a little yellow flower that's flax, I think it is, or rapeseed, I forget which. And the twigs from it, the dry twig from it afterwards, was just so beautiful in terms of the kinds of shapes it made. That was what I thought was exciting about it, and that was what I wanted to draw. Sometimes kind of knowing what it is you find exciting about your subject helps you to stay on track when you're drawing it, because you can sort of measure, well, am I conveying that thing that I really like about it? Or has it turned into something else, which is, okay if it turns into something else? Or is it just not working to do anything I wanted to do? And, this one for me, I can see it has potential. It's starting to work. It has a long way to go, but it is interesting. I'm going to do more of these funny sort of branches. Haven't gone into the tree on the right, and I haven't gone into the shrub yet, but I'm about to do that, or the blackberry bush, as you call it. Not really a shrub as such, is it? Is a blackberry bush a shrub? It's a wild shrub because that grows wild in my garden. So this is a bit thicker than I had it originally. I'm just trying to, the reason I'm not leaving this and just saying, okay, I'm going down here to the bush and I'm going over here to the other trees, I'm working my way across, because these negative spaces between things, are helping me to get the scale of things right and the positioning of things right. And I mean, I could have elected to do this in my India ink, which I'm passionate about. I love using India ink, but I wanted to show you can do it in any pen, and I wanted to change as well. So I think that keeps you fresh, just changing what medium you're working in every once in a while, freshen you up. Okay, we're down at the front. Here's some of the foreground stuff happening now. And I'm going to start finding the shape of that front tree, which is a shrub type tree. It started off as a shrub anyway. It's now turned into more of a tree. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think it's meant to be kept as kind of a shrub size, but I've never been able to control it. So it's now gone completely out of control. And it has all these wispy sort of little branches, and very few like big boughs like these. And then down here, we're going to have more tangly shrubs or bushes, are blackberry bushes. So this is the top of the blackberry bush here. And there's a lot to handle in this. But this is going to test your skills drawing in a most enjoyable way. if you manage not to get frustrated by it. Because you're doing something in front of the trees, parts of it are still a bit see-through through at the top, and you've got both very thin little branches and um, leaves to do as well on those branches. And how do you do them without getting into loads of detail? And how do you do all the shading and everything? It's quite challenging. And how do you delineate the branches, the fact that there's any shading? Well, this is where our cross hatching can help us out, right? I'm going either side of this little twig here, for example, with a bit of cross hatching, which is doing a line one direction and doing a line another direction. And I know that the bottom of this has a lot of scrubby on this. This is actually the background tree, but some of it, your eye can't tell what's background and what isn't. So some of the things I'm doing are kind of, you're not exactly drawing what you know, you're drawing what you see. And what I mainly see here is a big intersection of shapes. And I'm thinking in terms of tones, how light or dark something is. And I'm trying to establish those tones. If it's just going a bit closer, trying to establish those tones with my cross hatching. But they're not all the same tone. So, I'm going to kind of make some leaf shapes. And blackberry leaves aren't like, they're not that kind of a leaf when you look at them. You can be viewing them from the side. If you're viewing them from the side, they're a jaggedy kind of a like that thing. They might have sort of bit showing in the front, a bit not showing in the front. They could be going different directions. They're quite I'm only able to draw these like this because I've drawn them so many times and they've presented problems for me so many times as well, that I kind of know what kind of rhythms and shapes they make. So you're working with line, with tone, and you're working with the sort of rhythm of objects as well. It's very difficult, but really interesting, really interesting to do. So this is why it's nice to have music on. Or if you enjoy total quiet and just get totally immersed in it. Now, so that's kind of the top of the tree, the bottom of the tree and the scrub around it meets the scrubby blackberry bush. And I'm going to do a few kind of wildy bits coming out of the blackberry bush here because although I did trim it in the winter, it had a certain amount of growth after its last pruning, and it has some little branches that have gone very wild, you see. So along the top of the blackberry bush, parts of it are very wild. So I'm looking for where the edge is, where we start really seeing the edge of it against that tree. This tree has loads of work still to go on it, but just to get this bush started. And some of the leaves we can actually see. And they're all different tones. Some of them have dark bits underneath, and some of them just have fairly light bits. But what we can do with the leaves, because none of the leaves are totally white, right? Some of them are just very pale. We're doing our cross hatching, and we're only going, if you just look at this again, we use these leaves because we have them already. I had put down one row of lines for the dark bit on the leaf, and then I'm coming along at an angle and I'm doing all the leaves at that angle just to indicate that they're not all totally white. So you're establishing a kind of mid-tone on them. So we could proceed like that with all the leaves, yeah. But in between the leaves, don't forget there's a few bits of this kind of thing happening. That's how you're going to get that. I mean, it's tricky. It is. I'm not going to say it's simple, but that's how you're going to get that thing happening. And with all the different directions of leaves and everything, you see how we're getting that really kind of wild, scraggly look now at the edge of the bush. Then as we're coming down into the bush, we're going to go darker. A lot of the shadow is cast on the side of the bush. Then at the top, it's generally speaking a lot lighter. The sun, if there were a sun, is over here overhead, but you know it's kind of behind the bush. So all of this generally will be a lot darker than this upper bit of the bush. Okay, see what I mean? It's not making sense really yet, probably, but you'll see if I get the time. 47 minutes. You see, I don't have much time to even explain the plan to you. But I think you might be able to see my thinking on it. So we're really enjoying doing all these little long tendrils of a blackberry bush, because we can come along, once we have those in, we can come along and do our cross hatching in between. We will indicate a few little bits of leaves, but a lot of the action is going to be going along with the in between those tendrils there. So if I take one section, I can start doing cross hatching in between. And I'm not really doing cross hatching on the leaves yet. I'm going to leave that to last. So I have one set of lines going that direction. I'm going to come along and do a set of lines at an angle to that. Doesn't really matter the angle you go into it, to be honest. You just have to have all the lines sort of, parallel to each other. Then we'll go at a different angle, and you could even turn the page around to do this bit. But this is so enjoyable doing cross hatching this way. And I'm going at another angle, depending how dark you want the thing. I'm going to do a few bits of leaves here, leafy shapes in between, and do the same with this section. So you see the way we're managing to avoid that little edge of the blackberry tendril there. And if I just do the side of this one as well, you'll be able to see. See the way the tendril sticks out from the background? So you brought out the pale of that and managed to keep that. But we've done our going in different directions thing the way we did there, and the way we did there. Exactly the same technique. That's how you do that. And then, if you don't have this crosshatch down to totally black, you can come in and make other little bits in it, like little stems for your leaves. So you're getting even more detail in. And make some bits that are really black. And you're doing this by looking out the window, looking at what your subject is actually like, and saying, okay, well, most of the black bits are over on this side of, you know, you're going to make some generalizations. Nobody's perfect, but, and then finally, do the leaves, because I actually want the leaves darker than the blackberry tendrils, and this works to do that. I'm actually going the edge of the tendrils just to. Now, when you see a little section, it doesn't look that, convincing. But when you keep working across like that, and make sure that these blackberry stems, the big stems, go all the way across, and that you're not just one section doesn't relate to another section at all. The whole thing has to make some sense. So I'm following this one across, you see. But you have sort of split the job up into kind of different sections. So you've made it a little bit easier, because when I'm looking out at this blackberry bush, there are lots of different sections happening and a lot of different intersections of various twigs, stems, leaves, the whole shebang happening. It's very, very busy kind of a scene, and tangly and everything, right? But you might be able to start seeing now how three different kinds of things in the same picture, how the rhythm of them is sort of coming together a bit. Because this one, the bush, the rhythm of it seems to be this gentle curve, series of curves intersecting, right? That's the general rhythm of it. With the tree above it, the general feeling of it is this expansive spreading out feeling, which we're going to work on. And then the general feeling of this shrubby thing over the side is a more kind of it's busy, but it's a more kind of gentle, fragile sort of structure of branches. There are all leaves and things going on here, but a lot of the leaves in this one are just very kind of fluffy, vaguey sort of things. I haven't worked out my alphabet for them yet. There is this sense every time you do a new picture of anything, of starting again. Because unless you paint the same subject, and I haven't painted that particular tree off, and I think I might have painted that one before. Unless you painted the same subject and drawn the same subject again and again, you find that you're looking for how to describe the thing. So that's the stage I'm at with this one, how to describe it. And I will even be doing things like describe. There will be a little kind of a bird feeder down here, because I can see some of the birdies. Some of the little birdies are down here, you see. The bird feeder here. To wait till somebody flies up again. So, it's sitting there for a few hours drawn away, and that's why, these things take a little bit of time. So we're at 55 minutes. So that's what I'll do with this. I'll work a bit more on it today. Sorry, as I'm noticing things, I'm doing more things. Like I've noticed a little gap here into between the bush and the background that I want to emphasize as part of the interesting structure. There's so much of the structure not filled in at the moment. There's a lot of work to do on this one. But I'm going to keep working away, working away, and working away. And it'll become a lovely tangled mesh of things, I think, with some more graceful stuff happen up here. And goodness knows how this shrub thing over on the left of it turns out. But I'm really enjoying doing it. So I don't think I'll have it up today, to be honest. I think it'll be another few hours tomorrow working on it, probably kind of the same time in the afternoon. So I'll say that this one will probably go up on the community tab, finished tomorrow. I'll put it up tomorrow. I'm on Irish Greenwich Mean Time, so by my time, I'll put it up by tea time, we call it, which is dinner time, which is like, 6, 7 p.m. here. So depending on where you are, if you're in Europe, that'll be an hour or two later, or wherever else you are, it's a different time zone. So you probably know from, if I say it's nearly 3 o'clock here now, you'll be able to figure out your times from that. So, but do look out tomorrow night, basically, for me. I'll put this up. But I want to take my time doing this, have more music, get up, let my bottom, which is on a very hard seat, have a rest, have a cup of tea, go back and do another, because it's nice to have a break. When you're drawing, I've been drawing an hour now. So I'll have a little 10-minute break, a little cup of tea, then I'll sit down again. I'll get another hour out of it before it starts turning dark. And all from the comfort of my kitchen. And I get to stay dry and everything. I wouldn't have had I been out, because it's rained at least once since I sat down to do this. The other thing I could have done, I have a tarpaulin, and I could have set that up in my garden, but it's still very, very cold and very windy out. So, maybe when the weather gets better, we'll do one session like that. I might do a video of painting outdoors and kind of weird solutions like tarpaulins and things that will be able to have. So look out for the finished drawing then. And happy exploring with I want to show you one more trick. Happy exploring with your pen. This is kind of a cheat, this trick. But this trick is this other kind of way of making marks that you can explore things to make new kinds of marks with that solve particular problems. And I was using this yesterday, and I don't know how the heck I did it now. It's like trying to get a kettle to boil when it's been washed. But I was making grass with this yesterday quite successfully, a kind of a scrubby grass, and it's just dipped ink. It's not like drawing as such, but you could make quite an acceptable scrubby grass quite easily with it by coming along and working back into it. You just put down the little scrubby lines and work back into it. So that's my other little trick. And I just wanted to show you because it was to explain to you the importance of remembering to explore mark making, because you're trying to make your own vocabulary. That's your way of drawing. That's not, this is how you draw a tree. There are general principles, but you're different to everybody else, and your art is different to everybody else's. So you are reinventing from scratch in some sense even if you're looking at other people's work for general principles and things, the solutions you come up with, how to do things, um, you can come up with new ones as well as coming up with ones that have been used, tried and tested for ages, like cross hatching. You might come up with your own scribbly cross hatching, you see, that you go, oh, that's exciting. I like what that does. That describes that scrubby bit of the bush very well. So there are solutions to particular problems that the subjects present to you that, let's face it, it's fun to solve, And I love drawing so much. I uploaded a video about drawing a few days ago. So go and have a little look at that video, or go and have a look at the little short cross hatching video if you're still not, if you came in late or anything, not sure about cross hatching. So happy drawing, folks, and whether you're in your kitchen or the weather is nice enough to go out and bring drawing materials, don't forget that pens are fantastic to draw with. So probably see you for a live stream next week. Everything going well, and enjoy whatever arty things you're working on in the meantime. Take care of yourselves. Bye, and thanks for dropping by.